The fluorescent lights in the accounting wing buzzed like dying insects, casting a sickly pallor over the rows of cubicles long after everyone else had gone home. It was past 10 on a Thursday, the kind of hour when the building felt less like an office and more like an abandoned hospital wing, empty hallways echoing with the occasional groan of the air conditioning unit, distant elevator dings that never arrived on my floor. I wasn't supposed to be here. I'd told myself I was just grabbing the quarterly binder I'd forgotten on my desk, but the truth sat heavier in my chest: 3 weeks of sleepless nights, cryptic emails from corporate compliance, and the gnawing certainty that something was rotting under the polished surface of our department. My manager, Elena Vasquez, had always kept her office door locked when she left for the day. Tonight the handle turned under my palm. She must have been in a hurry. Rushed out after that last shouting match with the VP over the phone, slamming drawers, forgetting to twist the deadbolt. The room smelled of her signature perfume mixed with the faint metallic tang of old coffee and printer toner. I flicked on only the desk lamp, keeping the overheads dark. Shadows stretched long across the carpet as I moved behind her chair. The bottom drawer on the left was the one that always stuck. I'd seen her wrestle with it a dozen times, cursing under her breath while pretending it was nothing. Tonight it slid open with a reluctant scrape. Inside lay the usual clutter: old expense receipts, a half-empty bottle of hand sanitizer, a tangle of charging cables, but beneath a manila folder labeled Archive 2023 sat something that made my pulse stutter. 8 manila envelopes, each sealed with a strip of clear tape that had yellowed at the edges. No labels. Just numbers written in her precise handwriting, 1 through 8. My fingers shook as I lifted the first one. The flap tore slightly when I peeled the tape. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printed email chain dated 18 months ago. The subject line read, irregular vendor payment, urgent review required. The body was redacted in thick black bars, but the visible fragments were damning. Amounts in the low 6 figures, vendor names I recognized from our approved list, and Elena's own reply at the bottom: approved. Proceed. Do not recirculate. I opened the second envelope. Another email, this one from our external auditor, flagged with potential material weakness. Elena's forwarded response, noted. Internal matter. Closing file. The third contained a scanned check image, $187,000 payable to a shell company whose address matched a P.O. box in Delaware. The memo line read, consulting services, Q3. We had no record of any such consulting in our system. None. My knees buckled. I sank into her chair, the leather still warm from where she'd sat hours earlier berating me about missing deadlines. The room tilted. 8 envelopes. 8 separate instances, stretching back nearly 2 years. Each one a quiet amputation of company funds, each one signed off by the woman who signed my performance reviews, who controlled my raises, who'd once pulled me aside after a company happy hour and said, with that tight, practiced smile, "You're one of the good ones, Liam. Loyal. I need people like you around me." Loyal. The word tasted like bile. I kept going, hands moving on autopilot now, dread coiling tighter with every page. Envelope 4. A series of WhatsApp screenshots between Elena and someone listed only as JV. Transfers discussed in code, the usual route, same split as last quarter, laughing emojis after mentions of bonuses. Envelope 5, bank statements showing deposits into an account in her maiden name. 6, forged signatures on approval forms that looked suspiciously like mine. 7. A draft resignation letter she'd never sent, dated 6 months ago, confessing everything in clinical detail before crossing it out in furious red pen. 8. The most recent, dated 3 days earlier. A spreadsheet printout showing the running total withdrawn, $1,842,673.47, and a single handwritten note at the bottom in her looping cursive, "1 more quarter. Then I'm out." I sat there for what felt like hours, though the wall clock said only 11 minutes had passed. My reflection stared back at me from the dark computer monitor, pale, hollow-eyed, mouth slightly open like I'd forgotten how to close it. Every beat of my heart sounded too loud in the silence. I thought of my daughter, Mia, who still believed her daddy worked at the big important building with all the windows. I thought of the mortgage renewal letter sitting on my kitchen counter, stamped past due in red. I thought of Elena standing in the break room last month, handing out slices of birthday cake she'd bought herself, laughing that bright, brittle laugh while she asked me how the new baby was sleeping. She'd looked me straight in the eye and said, "Family comes first, right, Liam?" The betrayal burned so hot it felt physical, like acid behind my sternum. But beneath the rage was something colder, sharper: calculation. If I walked out now, called corporate security, emailed the board with photos of every page, she'd be gone by morning. Arrested, probably. But she'd also drag me down with her. The forged signatures. The late-night access logs that would show I'd been in her office after hours. She'd spin it. She was good at spinning. I'd seen her do it to 3 different analysts who'd dared question her numbers. They were gone within weeks, black marks on their records they'd never shake. I had a family to feed. A reputation to protect. I took photos. Every page, every envelope, every scrawled note. My phone flashlight trembled across the paper, turning the black redactions into stark voids. When the last flash died, I sat back and stared at the drawer. Then I did the thing I hadn't planned, the thing that made my stomach lurch even as my hands moved with eerie calm. I removed the 8 envelopes. I slid them into my messenger bag, nestling them between the quarterly binder and my laptop. The drawer looked almost untouched when I closed it. Only someone who knew exactly what to look for would notice the absence. I wiped the handle with my sleeve, turned off the desk lamp, and slipped out of her office the same way I'd come in. The hallway was still empty. The elevator ride down felt endless, each floor number ticking by like a countdown. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. I walked 3 blocks before I let myself breathe properly, leaning against a brick wall behind a shuttered deli. My phone buzzed, Elena's name on the screen. A text. "Hey, forgot to ask, did you finish the variance report? Need it first thing tomorrow. Thanks, champ." Smiling face with smiling eyes. My thumb hovered over the reply button. Rage and terror wrestled inside me, but something else was rising now: power. For the first time in 2 years, I held something she couldn't touch. Something that could end her. I typed slowly. "Actually, Elena, I think we need to talk. In person. Tomorrow. Your office. 8 a.m. sharp." I hit send before I could second guess it. The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then vanished. Reappeared. Vanished again. Finally. "Everything okay?" I didn't answer. Instead, I walked the remaining 6 blocks to the 24-hour diner on 14th, ordered black coffee I had no intention of drinking, and sat in the corner booth with my bag between my feet like it contained a live grenade. My mind raced through scenarios: her face when she opened the drawer tomorrow and found nothing, the moment she realized I had them, the way her voice would crack when she understood I wasn't bluffing. At 11:47 p.m. another text arrived. "Liam, what's going on? You're scaring me." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I typed one line. "You should be." I powered the phone off. The diner's jukebox clicked to a slow country ballad about lost love and second chances. I listened to the lyrics without really hearing them, my fingers drumming softly on the Formica tabletop. Somewhere in the city, Elena was probably pacing her apartment, checking her email, refreshing her banking app, wondering how much damage control she could manage before sunrise. She didn't know yet that the damage was already done. She didn't know I had every piece of evidence she'd so carefully hidden. She didn't know that tomorrow morning, when the sun rose over the glass towers and the cleaning crew started their rounds, I would walk into her office holding nothing but a single printed photo of envelope number 8, the one with her own handwritten confession. And when she looked up from her desk, when she saw my face and understood that the loyal analyst she'd groomed for years had finally stopped being loyal, she would do what people like her always did when the ground vanished beneath them. She would beg. The coffee in front of me had gone cold. I pushed the cup away and checked my watch. 4 hours until 8 o'clock. 4 hours until the drawer was opened, until the silence became screaming, until the woman who'd built her empire on other people's trust learned what it felt like to have nothing left to hold on to. I leaned back in the booth, closed my eyes, and for the first time in weeks, my breathing came steady. The night stretched on, quiet and merciless. And I waited.